So now I'm going to show you how to cut the holes for our hidden strap connectors. So you're going to take your template piece and your hidden connector facings, and you're just going to mark this little square. Now this process is very similar to what we do when we do a zipper pocket with the facing. It's just on a much smaller scale. So what you're going to do is on your exterior piece here, you're going to measure in 2¼ inches from that center part. So from that left hand side there, and just take some chalk and make a line. And then from the top, you're going to measure down 1¼ inches. And we're just making a little corner there so we know where to place our facing. Now we're going to take our facing and put it right into that angle there, right into there. And I'm just going to use some painter's tape to hold that in place. Painter's tape is great because it will not leave any gooey residue on your vinyl when you take it off. Okay, and then we're going to take this to the machine and stitch around this box on all 4 of the connector areas. So I did one already to show you what we are going to do. So now that we have that line drawn, we earth sewn. Now we are going to draw our cut lines. Again, it's very, very similar to how we do a zipper pocket with the facing. So I just do little vertical lines from the edge of the stitching that were about 1/8 of an inch, and then I drew a line down the middle in between those marks. And then I drew little V's out to the stitching. And this is going to look very familiar to you once you see what we're doing. Just like that. So it looks like a little mini zipper. Okay, now I'm going to just take my small rotary cutter and just make a little slit here so I can get my scissors in there. And then I'm going to cut to the line and then cut out to the V's without snipping into the stitches that we just made. So this is a little bit tedious, but it's not too bad at all. It's just a very, very small hole that we're doing. It's only 1 inch long. Again, making sure not to cut into your stitching. So that's what we have. Now you can remove the painter's tape. And you're going to push that facing into the wrong side of the panel. So just push it on through the hole. You can see how I did the other side. It's already through the hole. Now we want that seam to lay flat. So from the wrong side, I'm actually just going to take it to the iron and press out those seams very carefully, being careful not to touch the vinyl, but I'm just going to go give it a little bit of steam. Okay, so here we go. You can see how that just helped it lay a little bit flatter. Now we want to secure that, so we're going to take some double-sided tape and we are going to pull that seam nice and tight, similar to like what we did with our zipper panel, but make sure your seam is nice and tight and secure it with the tape, or secure the facing with the tape pulling that seam nice and tight. Do it on the side and the bottom, both sides and the bottom. So this is kind of basting that seam down. But using more double-sided tape. Make sure it's pulled nice and taut, and you can see that just makes it so we have absolutely no raw edges. So go ahead and do the exact same thing with the other side and the other 3. You're going to need your connector pieces, you're going to need your rectangular rings, And I always back rivets with scraps of Decaville Heavy, so I have a little bin of scraps, so I'm just pulling those out so I don't forget that I need to do those. And of course you're going to need your rivets. Okay, so what we want to do is take one connector piece, and on the wrong side we want to mark the middle, which is 2 inches. So I'm just going to take my chalk pen and mark my middle on both of my connectors. Okay, now this is going to be a very tight fit. It is what we want, but it does go in, trust me. So you want to put the connector in through that hole, wrong side up, until the bottom of the connector hole is about 1/8 of an inch away from that line that we drew. So something like this. Like that. And the same with the other side. This is a great way to do hidden connectors. My way that I do them, I can only do them with raw or materials that can have raw edges. You could definitely do this without using a vinyl or a non-fraying fabric. It works really well. Okay, so now we're going to take this to the machine, and on the back side, right along that top there, we are going to stitch it down with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, just like this. Making sure that you don't go past the connector because you don't want that to show on the exterior. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to secure that with the rivet. So just above that line that we just sewn, we're going to install a rivet. Okay, so you can see it's just maybe 1/8 of an inch up from the line we just sewn. I'm going to prep my Decaville Heavy pieces. You can use Peltex for this too. I strongly recommend always backing your rivets with a heavy stabilizer scrap just to give it more security. Okay, so put in your rivet. Put in your scrap of Decaville Heavy or Peltex, and then your cap. Take your rivet press or however you set your rivets and set your rivet. I'm going to do the same with the other side. Just like so. Okay, so now we're going to take a rectangular ring and we're going to put it on our strap, and then we're going to take that end of the strap and we're going to stick it in through that hole again. Again, it's very tight. We want it to be that way, but it does fit, I promise you. And pull it through as far as it'll go. Okay. So it's slightly above there. You can see above the line, just or the hole, because we have a rivet in there. So that gives us a perfect stop. It won't go any further. So it's perfectly placed. We don't have to measure anything. So you can either go ahead and sew along that bottom. I'm just going to place a rivet right along here, right in the center, making sure you're going through both parts of that connector we went through. So you'll have one side that's a little bit longer than the other, but make sure you're going through both of them. Again, don't forget your scrap of Decaville Heavy to secure it even further. Put it through. You can see I'm going through that shorter piece there and the longer piece. And medium rivets worked fine for this. I didn't need a longer rivet. I think these are 9mm by 8mm post, I believe. And then set that rivet. And it is installed. That is the end of that one. So go ahead and do the same with the other side.